Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of WHATTACHUNE's Relistenables podcast. In this podcast, we're going to be diving back into the 1975's third album, A Brief Inquiry. Inquiry?
British.
Inquiry.
I'd say probably the more British way.
Yeah, inquiry into online relationships. So today I'm joined by Mr. Quynn Meyers-Keller and Troy Jurach, a couple 1975 fans, but also just music nerds. And we're gonna get into the third
aspiring music nerd.
Aspiring music music dorks.
Yeah.
We're gonna get into the third 1975 album, A Brief Inquiry into Online Relationships. It's their third album. I think it's from 2018. And just followed their self-titled first record and their second album, I Like It When You Sleep. For You Are So Beautiful, Yet So Unaware of It. Talk about what's aged the worst. Anyways.
Yeah.
that name never was gonna age well.
It aged like milk. Like spoiled milk.
Like a fine milk.
Yeah, and this third record is like borderline like bad too, but it's
The name for this one?
yeah, it's just it's
no,
okay.
I fucking love this name.
You love it.
I like it. Well, it's more. I think it's more topical. I think it's more relevant to the album for sure.
Oh, for sure. I think how I want to start these kind of deep dives first is how I want to get into the deep dives into these records is first just kind of ask you guys, like, what was your relationship with the band going into listening to this third album? Quinn, you can go first.
Sure. Yeah. I actually kind of have a weird relationship with the band, only because when they first came out, the first record they had the big hit Chocolate, and I hated it. I thought it was the corniest shit I'd ever heard, and I was like, oh man, what is this band? And then the second record came out, and there was a few tracks in there. I was like, okay, they've matured. They've matured a bit. So I checked it out, loved it, and went back and listened to the first record, loved it. So coming into the third record, I was just all hype, especially because the first two singles they released, the first two songs in the album, well, second two technically, but I was more just interested than really excited by those first two singles. Give Yourself a Try and Two Time, because they were both really different from anything they'd done on the first two albums. So I think I was more interested than excited, but given that I'd come to love those first two albums, was also excited,
And I think Troy's kind of perspective was the complete opposite. So you want to share?
Yeah, that's actually pretty accurate. Yeah. I think coming into this one, having just gotten I Like It When You Sleep, that album was just way too big for me, way too sprawling, like content-wise. But then, as we'll see in this album, it wasn't so much that it was maybe too big or the content was too varied. It was that the execution of that content wasn't as tight as it needed to be for me to like love it. And so, yeah, just coming into this album, I really, if anything, it was perfect for me because my expectations were kind of low. I think overall on the last album, it has some of the best songs they've ever made, but the album was definitely weaker than their intro album, or the EPs, however you want to break it up. But it was definitely weaker for me. So this one, it was, I feel like, the perfect storm to really love this album because my expectations were just down here.
Yeah, and I think I'm definitely closer to Troy's end of the spectrum there too, because I can't help it that the first record, it's funny because like I didn't hear Chocolate first, I heard Sex first, and that's
oh man, that would have been a different thing entirely.
And I think that definitely speaks to Quinn's what kind of tripped you up with the band. Yeah, I think if you heard Sex first, it would have been like a game changer because that's what it was for me. Like I heard Sex and I was just like, man, this is what I want in like emo music, especially in 2013 where like that was my shit. It was like a real like game changer for me. But then hearing the rest, that's what led me to like listen to the rest of the record, which is basically like 2 whole albums. It feels like the 80s vibes and like the nostalgic vibes on there was like perfect. I think it was like our senior year of college, and so it was like a perfect soundtrack to kind of like end that album, end that kind of like era of my life. So kind of I hate to say piggyback off what Troy was saying, but like the second record just like didn't do it for me, just because it I don't know, maybe it was just a time in my life that like it didn't really make that much sense, or there's like too much going on. So like the wide variety of the content on that second record just felt too like not focused, or like the content wasn't as like strong. But some of my favorite songs, She's American and stuff. And so
Change of Heart.
Yeah. And so, I mean, even Somebody Else, some of my favorite songs, but as a whole, it was kind of weak. So going into this one, I really, honestly, I feel like it like snuck up on me. Just because like I wasn't paying attention to 1975 hype going into this album, but
I was still paying attention.
Oh yeah, I only was paying attention because you were sending me shit like this stuff's happening. But yeah, so we're kind of in like these like different parts of the spectrum of going to this record, but I think so let's just get right into our first category of most re-listenable song. Quinn, like we'll start with you first. Like, give me some nominees, maybe like top 3, top 4.
Top 3. I can do top 3.
Yeah.
Top 3 gotta be Love It If We Made It. Gotta say, I Like America and America Likes Me.
Whoa!
And I gotta say, Always Want to Die Sometimes.
I gotta say that second one is a surprise, but like
for me too. For me too. Yeah. So for America, I Like America and America Likes Me. That one aged the best for me because I came back to it with a different mindset. And the other thing that changed too was seeing it live. Because I saw them at the Electric Christmas last year, and kind of how he described it in one of the podcasts we listened to. He had the auto-tune cranked, and he was just like yelling, screaming it. And that was one of the coolest performances I've ever seen. You have this like house trap beat, and then Maddie's just fucking yelling with auto-tune on. It was just so cool.
I wonder how many times like a song hasn't landed for me, and like I wish I just saw it live, and it probably would have changed things. Cause
I do think that was a big effect on that one for me. Because the other two, loved them from the start. Just the vibes of them. Love It If We Made It obviously was a big hit from that album. And then the last song, I Always Want to Die Sometimes. That definitely, they landed with that last song effect for me. Because with that one, for me, it's just like, oh man, this definitely is the last song on the album. And I just like all the musical elements of that song a lot. But yeah, the second one was came as a surprise to me too.
I always want to die sometimes. That kind of seems like, knowing where the second or where the fourth album went, that kind of seems like that was their foray into the 90s kind of vibe for me. It definitely seems like not only their start into that, but I mean, having listened to the fourth album, probably their best
version of that
effort at doing that.
Sure.
Which is a good transition, Troy. Like, what about you? For your top 4 like most re-listenable songs on this record.
Ooh, okay. If I had to go, I'll probably go in order of best, and then just whatever comes next. Number 1, I think originally it would have probably been when the album came out. It would have been Sincerity Is Scary, just because it's so melodic and so catchy. Especially with the choir, I feel like that really makes the song. But just after spending time with it, and then eventually hearing it live, it fulfilled all my worst fears, because I just knew there's no way it was going to sound anywhere near as good live. Because if you just the way the song is, like the way he wrote it, he's not like really singing. He's kind of doing like a softer singing, and it's more it's like the choir who's lifting him up in terms of the vocal performance. And so, yeah, just seeing it live was so disappointing. And then I feel like that kind of it sent like a wave through my enjoyment of the song. And so now I still love it. It's still really good. But it's no longer probably a top 3 or top 4. That being said, the best one for me, and it is like pretty consistently been number 2 all this time, and then it's pulled ahead, is Give Yourself a Try. Like for me, it's their best intro song, because it just like, I don't know, it has a grittiness and an industrialness to it that is probably one of my favorite things in modern music. Like a lot of my favorite albums have that sort of industrial feel. Like you could say, like Bon Iver, 22 Million, Kanye's Yeezus, even like Blink-182, their Untitled album. They all have this like industrial, kind of like harder edged feel to them. And so Give Yourself a Try, really great in that regard.
That's so weird because I would never like I love that song. I would just never like think of that as like an industrial tinge, but I get what you mean now that you say it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think totally is. I definitely agree with that. Those are the few things. I mean, I've thought about that song a lot, and then just to clarify too, that is an honorable mention on my. It just didn't make the cut, but yeah, the way they play the guitar in that song, it's all like downstrokes, and it makes it sound like more on edge.
It's jarring.
It's jarring, and the other thing too is they use
to your ears a little bit.
Like they use Crash for half that song.
Yes,
and it's just fucking like driving under such like a simple, easy, nice melody though.
But what's funny is like it's almost like they wrote the pop punk, like they wrote like a pop punk song, and then they just changed the sounds to like a Linn drum. Or whatever, and then like an 80s kind of like a drum machine, but kept all the same pop punk parts. Mm-hmm. And it's even with the guitar line, like it's such a great song. But yeah, I would just never think of it. Go ahead.
Oh, and I was just gonna say, and to that effect, like it's so simple.
Oh yeah.
Which I mean, it's like the riff is just that same riff throughout, like basically the whole song. Like it cuts out a few times, but it's basically just that single riff, the crash, and like very minimal instrumentation. And so just in terms of being a fan of like simplicity when it comes to execution, that one is so simple and so effective. My second pick is How to Draw a Petrichor.
Sure. Yeah,
it's them just it's George Daniel really digging into just sounds and just making an absolute headbanger. But I think just the texture of the sounds, just like the metallic-y, robot-y, kind of weird, again, industrial sounds. I just think I find so much enjoyment in modern music now when I hear something I've never heard before. Like, I think one of the great joys of life is, experiencing things you've never experienced before in any sense. Like, it could be food, it could be traveling, watching a movie, whatever. And so my ears just kind of perk up when I get to hear something creative where I'm just like, whoa, no one has I've never heard that sound in any song before ever. Like they obviously created it just through digital manipulation. And so I think that'd be my number 2 pick. Number 3, that one's a little tougher. I think I actually might have to go I Couldn't Be More in Love. Because
peak ballad.
It's a beautiful ballad, and man, it's just like the most guttural performance. The like him hitting the what about the like when he just hits that, you just feel it in your damn soul. And so I think just off of like emotion, I'd go for that for number 3.
I gotta say, like, that was a song where even after 2 albums before this, that was the first one where I really believed in Maddie as a vocalist. Like before that, I was just kind of like, yeah, he could sing. Like he could sing for like a rock band or whatever. But like that one, I was like, dude, this dude is singing. Like singing with an A.
All right, Josh, hit us.
Most relistinables, I think for me, for sure, number 1, it's Love It If We Made It. So I gotta be right there with Quynn. That's my number 1. And just like, I think that might be my favorite 1975 song. Like,
wow.
If not top 3, and it's not 3, like, so maybe top 2, but it's up there for sure.
I like that. I'm gonna use that from now on.
I mean, I can't. That's a Drake line, but this. But so just like the bass line, like it's just thumping. I love that shit, and it's like it's almost like they found the perfect BPM. It reminds me of
Totally.
like that Foo Fighters story about how they wrote this one song where they were like,
Enough space.
we just want people to do this and jump. And
Yeah,
they're
he just
almost
wants like what's the tempo of someone jumping? Like, write a song to that.
That's
Yeah.
actually genius.
that's how it feels like they made this song. I'm not
That's
saying
one of
that
my
that's how
favorite
they did.
things about that song too, is the BPM. I totally agree.
It's like perfect. Like I know it's not just like 89. Like I just you can just feel it's like 89.4 or some bullshit. Like it's just so sweet and just like in the cut. But the way that they did the bass like really makes it kind of like pull back. But it never feels like it's dragging, and I love it. And then going into the bridge of it, and this really tells you like as I got older, like I have like my appreciation for bass, like bass playing has like really like exponentially grown as I've learned how to do it. But like when they let him loose during, I guess you can call it like the
Third
refrain,
verse, kind of. Yeah.
yeah, when they like kind of really open it up, and then that bass line just gets real melodic. Holy balls. Good stuff. It's just Hot Boys. And but what's funny about that, and again, I don't want to get too far ahead, part of some of that song is part of my What's Age the Worst, even though I love that song the most.
Yeah, I think I know where you're going with that. Let's
yeah.
cross that bridge when we get to it.
We'll cross
So I
that
know where
bridge,
you're
yeah.
heading.
It's interesting that you guys like you love that song like it's both your number ones. And you both, you said you feel like it's like almost like when you brought up the jumping kind of thing, like Foo Fighters comparison. I actually feel like it's one of their least melodic songs. When I listen to it, I really enjoy it, but at the same time, I feel like something is like pulling me back from like really like loving it. Like there's just something that's like pulling me away from that, and I don't know what it is exactly about the song. Like I've never really been able to pinpoint what it is, but something about it just doesn't feel. It almost doesn't feel like a song. Maybe that's just because it's so politically charged to me, or what it is.
Which is
about.
weird because like none of the lyrics or the subject matter affect me at all. Like when I hear that song, I like make up my own like kind of like things that he's saying almost, but like basically like the overall feel of the song is like so undeniable for me. But I don't mean to play psycho whatever.
No,
Annals
please
or whatever,
do.
but like
Yeah.
you're
Play
so
what?
in the mode of like very sweet sounds, and what's weird is that this is probably one of the 1975's like least sweet sounding songs, and
That's fair, yeah.
And it's funny because like
Very discordant.
this version of the 1975, and you know that there's probably like 4 or 5 different versions of the 1975.
At least, yeah.
This version of them is not my favorite version of them. My favorite version of the 1975 is more along the lines of like my second most relistenable song, which is It's Not Living If It's Not With You, is my second most relistenable song from this album. And that's my favorite version of 1975. But there is just something about like the vibe and just like the groove and fucking yelling it in the car.
Yo, the energy for sure.
Oh my God.
Well, that's the thing too, because one thing, Troy, is you're right. It's not melodic at all. Like, the vocals
Not
are
at all.
much more rhythmic than they are melodic. Like one of my favorite lines, just for the rhythm of it. I don't even know what the lyrics are, to be honest, but something about "Poison Me, Daddy."
Poison Me Daddy, dude. Yes.
That's a great lyric. That is a
Poison
great
Me
lyric.
Daddy. Yeah, dude. I don't know what
But
it
that
is.
the rhythm of that, it's like da 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 da. That's such a cool rhythm. It's so much more rhythmic than it is melodic. And the other thing too is, speaking of his vocal performance, that "Love It If We Made It."
Yeah.
That's
Dude, yeah.
the peak of his strained but controlled vocals that
Yeah.
I love so much.
Sounds like his whole body is just like pushing it out, like it's everything
yeah.
to get that lyric out.
And that line lyric is one of my favorite lyrics from the album, even though it's just so basic as hell. But like the lyricism of the way he sings it too, like put it over the top for me. It just like it's like yearning, it's like begging, but there's like a quality to his voice. It's like if you don't make it, fuck it, like just because it's Maddie. But anyways, I digress.
Oh, I just want to hit one more point actually on this one. Though I don't love it on the album, like it's not one of my favorite songs on the album, it is absolutely one of my favorite songs I've ever heard live. like
Oh, I
live
bet.
with their light display and just like the insanity that is their visuals. That song is absolutely crazy. Like I feel like the recorded version just doesn't even do it justice.
All right, and then
So
just rounding it out.
Yeah, get into your second.
And then my third one, dude, easy. I always want to die sometimes. Like, Quinn's already talked.
2 for 2.
Quinn's already talked about it, but it's like there's something about that chorus. Like, there's a thing with me now where it's just like, and this happened on this newest Joji album. I don't know if you guys listen to him, but like, there's a song on there where like the production is like just okay, like it's just all right, but just like the composition of the melody is just so like professional that or like timeless even, that like that it like transcends however like whatever the execution is of the actual song. And the chorus of this song is like is one of those for me. The chorus of I Always Want to Die, it feels like, and I think Maddie said this, I might be taking the words from him, but it feels like it existed forever, like it's always been in the world, and he just like
in the ether.
Yeah, like it
Grasped
just
out.
feels like it's always been with us, but it's never existed before. And I know that's like
It's heady as shit, but I agree.
yeah, dude. I think those are my three. Can we I don't know if we can make a consensus on most relistenable song.
I think that's.
But
I just want to say I think that's actually really in tune with. I think that song's really in tune with you liking "It's Not Living with You" if it's not with you as like your second pick. Both of those songs to me, I like how you were saying like there's the different versions of the 1975. I do agree, and I feel like this version, I feel like the I Always Want to Die Sometimes is partly that version, partly their 90s version. But I do agree in the sense that this is one of those songs where it felt like, as a listener, it felt like it must have written itself, because it's just like so in the pocket of like, their content, just overall atmosphere. Like it I do get what you mean. Like it does feel like it always kind of was just,
like whatever drugs they
little
were
bit.
taking at the time. Fuck, man.
It worked.
Dude, Amazon Prime me that like tomorrow, please, because it feels like floating. Like I was talking to Quynn earlier about this song that I'm trying to write. Like I want it to feel like it's floating, and I was doing things that were making it not float, and that song feels like floating to me, at least. So
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
I try to listen to that when I'm just stressed. It's a good feel. And just yelling "I Always Want to Die" sounds fucked up, but it's like it's so cathartic.
And dude, that idea too, like, I mean, it's so simple, but it's so cool to say like you always want to do something. Sometimes. I just love that. It's so cheeky.
It's cheeky, yeah.
He's
exactly.
a cheeky bastard,
Say more,
baby.
Okay, Austin Powers.
Austin Powers.
All right, let's move on. I know we spent a lot of time on
Let's do
this,
it.
but
I mean, that's arguably the most important question of relistenable.
I mean,
so
I could
For
keep
sure.
going. There's a lot more.
yeah,
But,
we could do this one song by song, but
no.
that'll be another 3-hour pod.
But Troy, for you, for this record, since you first heard it, what's aged the best?
I don't actually think I have an aged the best. I think the ones I loved, I've kind of always loved, which, without jumping too much ahead, is most of the album.
True.
But it's I guess the sentiment that the things you dislike, like you dislike them more than the things you like them, but the things you dislike, you hate them. I think I kind of have that feeling more on this album. Like I don't really have any that grew on me substantially since I heard it originally. I just more or less have the ones that I already kind of disliked or hated, and then it's only deepened.
Quynn, for you?
Definitely for me personally, what aged the best is Petrichor. After
Same.
breaking down that last album and just appreciate it. One, being able to appreciate that sound more, and two, listening to them break it down. Because I always loved How to Draw, because that was the piano song from it was like a bonus track from the second album, and I always loved that. But adding Petrichor to it made it like this transitionary thing, which I wasn't a fan of before, but I always loved that melody, like that little melody he sings at the end. The dun, 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 dun. I always loved that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But being able to appreciate that, like on top of the music that's going on underneath, made it age a lot better for me than my original take on it.
Yeah, I gotta agree 100%. What aged the best was How to Draw and Petrichor, because honestly, I didn't really listen to How to Draw the first time around, but listening to it now for this episode of the Relistinables, I like was just enthralled with it. It really reminds me of like this is gonna sound blasphemous, but
Yes.
it's like Idiotech by Radiohead, like the Petrichor, how like it is this like standard loop that just kind of devolves and evolves, but it's, if you really listen to it, it's like it is just the same sound. They're just like fucking with the sounds throughout it, and then but I don't think I was ready for that in 2018. I don't think I wanted that from the 1975. I think I was just like, yo, give me the disco jams and give me like the slow burn tech, like house songs. And so I didn't want that like noisy like breakbeat thing, but damn it, now it's
See, that's what's
gets me
funny, because
sweaty.
I feel like loving that song from the get, like first listen, I was just like, how did I just like hear that? That was incredible. I feel like that's what really primed me to really love those songs on Notes on a Conditional Form that are,
I can
just
totally see
instrumental.
that now. Yeah, I can
Like,
totally
that's-
see that.
Like, so if anything, it's probably, I've just been like sitting with that for like years now.
You're like, give me more.
I was waiting for the follow-up.
Yeah, it's funny because like I do love the version of 1975 where they're more electronic based, but I love it when it's like atmospheric and down tempo. So seeing them do like more like upbeat breakbeat things was a bit of a shock, but I should have saw it coming. So that's on me.
One of the things that when I was listening to the album again, to pinpoint some of these things that really stuck out to me was there's this moment in that song. It's right before the vocals come in, because before that, you're right, it's kind of just rising and falling, but kind of staying in the pocket. But then right before the vocals come in, they let it ride, and they had that crazy like that bass line that really throws you off. That boom, dun, it's like it makes you go like this, and then 10 seconds later, this beautiful melody comes in. I just love that drastic change.
So let's get right into it, because it sounds like Quinn and I are pretty much on the same page on what's aged the best.
Fucking A. Let's keep this train going.
Fuck it. Pure alignment. What's aged the worst? Let's start with you, Quinn.
I mean, for me, I feel like it's pretty obvious, but the skit.
What?
What?
It's
I
too
love
weird,
the skit.
man.
I love the skit.
Dude.
It's too weird for me.
It is one of the best skits in probably years. There's
I
like two
get
good
it.
skits in modern music. It's that and Kanye Loves Kanye, and that's it. Those are the
I
only
get
acceptable
it.
skits in 20.
Why don't you? Why do you hate it? Why do
I
you hate
get
it?
it, and it like conceptually, it aged well. Like as the internet being something that we are in a relationship with on a day-to-day basis. I get it. It's just so on the nose. It's some of the stuff that like I know it was very like on purpose, but the thing where it was like, and he was very, 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 very like obviously it's
Very,
on
very,
purpose.
very.
You could have just picked a better word than saying very,
No,
very, very, very.
Yeah, it's so intentional.
I know, but it's just too much for me.
Yeah, just to go against you on that one. I fucking love that thing, that skit.
Sure.
I wouldn't even call it a skit.
do,
I call
please do.
it a poem. Like that's just a good poem to me. Like, cause
Okay,
if anything,
Alright.
it's probably like the difference in level of enjoyment. It's obviously very intentional in what it's like doing, but there's like some funny parts. Like I love when it says that he would get him cooked animals, like completely unnecessary.
You know what? Okay, yeah.
Like unnecessary
There's some
because it's like,
silliness to
obviously,
it for sure.
why would a computer say cooked animals? Like it would just say food. But the fact that it's like trying to show that it's like not as
human.
I don't know, human as us. And it's like, yeah, exactly. It's like putting it into just like a more scientific kind of like frame. So that was really funny. But then it also, I think there's one line where it doesn't actually sound that dark, but then when you like think about the line and the implications of the line, you're kind of like, whoa, that's actually fucked up. Because it says, after it says he would get him cooked animals and show him the people having sex again, and he would always agree with him. And I think that is like, to me, that is like one of the most pivotal points of the skit, the poem, whatever, because the internet is like this kind of, like Josh and I, we've talked about it so many times. It's like, yes, it's beautiful and powerful and it can do all these things, but it's also like it leverages the worst parts of humanity too. And so like that line of, like it would always agree with him. That is a lot of people's relationship with the internet, because
that's why I like it.
If you're if you're talking to someone and you're like, oh yeah, I got this. This is what the answer is. And they're like, no, I think it's actually this. It's like everyone just like breaks their phone out and like tries to confirm their point. And that's like that's in like a non-malicious way. But then you have things, like political things and like environmental problems and stuff like that. And people really are just trying to prove themselves right. Like a lot of the time it's not about finding the right answer.
The themes of it, again, I think are even more relevant now, arguably. But it's just the idea of it as a whole
Quynn just wants songs for me. You gotta remember.
Yeah.
Quynn, just give me 10 songs.
I'm here for songs.
Yeah. No. I
that being said, I love the instrumentation going on underneath.
It is beautiful.
What aged worse for you, Troy?
What aged the worst for me is, without a doubt, Surrounded by Heads and Bodies.
I don't even remember that song. So
it is. Yeah. If you take that song out, I feel like it's actually probably a perfect album. You could even cut "Be My Mistake," I think. But if you cut those,
but I agree.
I still think it's a great acoustic song. Like I think a lot of the time, I just don't think acoustic songs really even need to be on albums. I guess that would probably be my
interesting point.
My critique.
Hot take.
Hot take. Let me explain my reason.
Hot take. Troy no longer wants the entire Bon Iver album, the first one.
No. That's
he just wants to cut all of Forever.
That's different. Like that is obviously thematic, and the whole album is like predicated on it being so acoustic and natural sounding. And
I'm making this joke because not to cut you off, but what aged the worst?
No, you're good.
Are all the acoustic songs. So I'm right there with you. I make a joke that because here's the thing. I love acoustic songs. Like I love acoustic sad boy songs. Like I don't like happy acoustic songs. I like sad, weepy acoustic songs. But I
love the weepy.
Yeah. Why what's aged the worst for me is because the power of the 1975 are in their sonics. And by stripping them down to just an acoustic,
that's fair.
And maybe, and to their credit, they make probably the most interesting acoustic songs, like because there is always something happening underneath, or in like some like sound effects and some shit. But you're still stripping the power away from a George, or even from the rest of the band, from like, because it is that coalescing of all four of them and their sounds and sensibilities that like make the power of the 1975. It's not like a band where like it's so focused on like one of the members who's like this primary songwriter and like that's where the power of the band is. The power of this band is all four of them, and obviously the big two, but but all four of them making their like sonic fucking goodness. And so
there's a division of powers. Like it's not just Maddie bringing the heat every time. And so
exactly.
When you strip it down to just Maddie, don't get me wrong, all the songs that he's written would be great still. They'd be great songs to listen to, but they wouldn't be like iconic 1975 songs.
I just think it like fair. They're still good. They just lose the power of the rest of them that includes all of everybody. So
I definitely agree with that Surrounded by Heads and Bodies, age of the worst. I think even Be My Mistake, some of it still fits on it more, but that one just it's because I love how random this whole album is, but that one's just so out of place.
Yeah.
And I actually really do like, because when I was re-listening to the album, I really did like the guitar riff. It's like the doom 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 doom.
That bossa nova.
Doom, doom. Like I enjoyed that a lot. But then as soon as it comes in with just that Angela, I'm just like, oh
yeah,
God,
agreed.
Off. I think acoustic songs for me just also come off you can have the most heartfelt acoustic song, but if it's not in the right setting or context, it's just going to come off as lazy to me, because I'm like, you could have built an entire song around this, and you chose to just leave it the guitar only.
But there it is. They chose.
It depends on the songwriter, though, I would say.
Intention isn't everything. It's half.
Next category is casting what ifs. So usually in movies, in the Rewatchables, which we're basically just aping because it's one of my favorite podcasts right now. They do casting what ifs, and they think of like the movies, and they think they read up on kind of like actors that might have been the star actors of a certain movie. Like for example, with Gone Girl, Natalie Portman was actually like in the running for Amy Dunn, and so they think about like, you know, would that have been better? Could that have been cool? Like would they have been down with that? So for WHATTACHUNE casting what ifs, like, is there anybody that's involved in this album that, you know, you'd swap out, or is everybody in their right place, you feel? Like maybe a producer. Do you think this record needed a producer, or, you know, that kind of thing?
No, I mean, yeah, I think it's like, I mean, I think though we haven't really said it yet, I think we've all kind of hinted at it. It's like this album is so complete feeling for the most part, and probably one of their best. And so, yeah, I mean, I definitely can't see the argument taking out, you know, any production elements, because it's like George Daniel has like found, I feel like he's really, really found what he does now. Like before, first album, second album, you're like, okay, George is like good. He's for sure good. But then I feel like on this album, he just kind of ascended, and you're like, wow, he is in his like Charizard form right now. Like he's really showcasing. And by the way, I wouldn't have said Charizard, but I feel like most people like Charizard the best out of the originals. But
that's another podcast, but it's okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't swap anybody out, but I'd love to see some like remixes with someone else who's super into sounds. Like I don't know if you've listened to interviews and whatnot with Phineas, you know, Billie Eilish's brother. I mean, he's like another modern like sound.
He's a sound genius,
engineer.
He's a sound genius.
So I'd love to see see some of his takes on these songs, and just see if he would do anything differently or add anything. I think that'd be just an interesting take, because it is such a sound-based album. I wonder if someone like that would change anything, you know?
I think for me, casting what ifs of this record, I think all bands and their projects are served better with a producer that's outside of the band.
Not them.
And I think that's what this record was missing a little bit. If I wish Mike, I think I just looked up his name. Mike Crossy was the producer of the first two albums, and it's just like kind of like with Blink. Their best stuff was when they had Jerry Finn like behind the boards, and it's not even necessarily that a producer's going to come in and bring something like technical better to it, but if it's somebody that you trust and somebody that, you know, you trust their aesthetics, you love the sounds that they get, like even just from like an engineering standpoint, like more importantly, it's like an objective set of ears to the stuff that you're making that could kind of like serve as not necessarily a filter, but kind of like a check and balance to just like this explosion of ideas. Because, you know, as artists, it left unchecked, there's no concern for how it's going to be perceived by, in their case, they're a pop band, so they're going to be there's commercial kind of like there's a commercial element to the projects that they make. And so I think some of those edges that I had a problem with that we talked about earlier could have been kind of smoothed out. But I'm kind of back and forth on it, because I Like It When You Sleep was so fucking expansive and crazy. And,
exactly.
and Mike was there too.
Where did the producer get them? Like,
and so, but
maybe nowhere.
Yeah. So it's kind of neither here nor there. I'm not necessarily sure if I wanted it to be Mike Crossy. I think it could have been someone else. But
you wanted it to be someone.
I think a fifth guy in the room, especially for how
or girl or person. Josh, come on now.
It's 2020, man.
Come on, man. Come on. I'm just kidding. Yeah, if we just needed, I just think a fifth person in the room,
could
have served it better, and it could have. I mean, to me, this album's already like 8.59. I think it could have elevated just that like hair, but that's my casting what ifs on that. Apex Mountain. So Apex Mountain is the category where, out of everyone involved in the album, who was at the peak of their powers? Troy, thoughts on whose Apex Mountains was this? Was this Matt Healy's Apex Mountains? Was this George's?
We already know.
I mean, yeah, I think I guess I should have waited on my last thing because, yeah, I
Was it the graphic designer's Apex Mountain? That's what I'm saying.
Hey, there was some fun one. I mean, there were some fun ones. I do actually, yeah, they actually did have some cool graphics for this. But yeah, I mean, I think if we had to, if you look at every song piece by piece, what really stands out is the production. And so yeah, 100%. I think you have to give it to George because
George Daniels Apex Mountain. And again, multiple people can be at their Apex Mountain too. It doesn't have to be a winner. So, do you think this was George Daniels Apex Mountain?
I think this was George Daniels Apex Mountain, and I think Matt Healy definitely forged like the identity of the band, but I think George is what keeps it like fresh at this point. Like Matty like he writes whatever, but I mean at the end of the day it's like George a lot of the time coming up with some weirder shit. So I think if anything, I feel like a lot of their experimentation might even just be stemming from, but that's not true. Maybe it's Matty too. I'm gonna walk back everything I said. Let's just walk it all back.
No, I agree with most of what you said. I mean, I think it definitely was George's Apex Mountains for this record, especially in the context of their newest album, which I think definitely was not his Apex Mountain overall.
Yeah.
But something too that I might be, not giving Matty enough credit was I kind of always expect great melodies and great songs from him.
Yeah, it's an unfair burden we place on him. Yeah.
So it's like more great songs. Like you have all these other great songs, whereas George obviously really stands out on this one because I think he really does make this album. Going back to what I said about Be My Mistake, it's a great song by Matty. What really pushes it over the top is the little effects that I'm sure George had input on, and that kind of production I think really is what makes this album stick out as a 1975 album.
Like the art direction on this album, because I know that's a big part of the 1975 and their whole shtick is like the visuals. So Sam and Matt, who are like basically serve as the art directors for 1975, I think this was their best like visual era, I gotta say. At least my favorite. So I would say Apex Mountain, Sam and Matt on the art side. I don't know about the George Daniel Apex Mountain. I mean, I want to say this is a cheating answer. I think his Apex Mountain will be album 5. My problem,
you're right.
That is cheating. But like, I don't think he has an Apex Mountain yet. Yeah, definitely not Matt's Apex Mountain. I still feel like this is gonna sound fucked up. I still feel like the first album was this Apex Mountain, but
sure,
like songwriting wise. But I think vocally, this was like Matt Healy's vocals, Apex Mountain. This one, songwriting. I like the last one. Can we go back to what aged the worst, just real fast? I just want to add to it.
Do whatever the fuck you want.
The
buddy.
fucking two-time drum beat. Fuck that beat. Like, fuck that beat. Fuck that whole instrumentation. I hate it. I just think that.
See, that grew on me. A lot.
I still like it. I didn't like it as much at first. Like
same,
I remember first listen, I was just like, "This is a Drake song."
I love that beat because it was a Drake
song.
I love that beat because it was a Drake song. But my problem with it is that it wasn't a Drake song. But more importantly, like I just feel like every time they kind of do these things that like kind of like speak, that kind of like reach for the zeitgeist a little bit instead of just kind of what they're doing and like to the best of their abilities. I just feel like they're never at their best, and so. I just want to go on record that I hate Two Time.
I mean, I agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I can see
Two
that.
Time can eat my butt.
It's not their best song by any means.
No, it should not have been track 3. Is what I'm saying.
But I do think
hide that bitch in the deep cuts.
It's so cute. Nah,
See,
so
and I
cute. If they hit it in the deep cuts, it would defeat the purpose of making a zeitgeist song.
I agree that it's like they're probably at their worst when they're not just doing their thing. But at the same time, I actually think this is one of the songs on the album where it's like, if you're talking about 1975, and more specifically, if you're talking about Maddie lyric writing, I feel like that's like him in the pocket. I feel like that's the same as It's Not Living If It's Not With You. I Always Want to Die Sometimes. Because the lyrics are, again, just like, those like cheeky lyrics.
He's a cheeky
No idea what the
bastard.
lyrics are for the song, to be honest.
Like him just saying
what?
like, I only called her one time, maybe it was 2 times. Can't
Right.
be more than 3 times. Like, I don't know. I
Did
just
you
feel
say
like
Kant?
it's like a
Did you just try to say
Kant.
Kant?
That's what
Get the fuck
that's what
out
he
of
says.
here.
Kant. That's what he says. Question: when you sing the 1975, do you sing it with an American accent? Hell no.
Wait, what is it? What's the controversy here? What am I missing?
Oh, he tried to
Oh,
say, he said
says
it with a
can't be more than 3 times.
he said Kant.
Oh, Kant.
I said can't first, but then I was just like, that's not how the lyric is. It's
That's hella
can't.
funny.
It's can't.
That's hella funny.
Yeah. It says that in Genius Lyrics. It's like CAHNT.
No, it doesn't. Does it really?
No, I'm lying. What the fuck? No, it's
I
Kant.
was like, what? It's
hella
can't.
funny.
Anyways,
You just can't.
yeah.
You know what the other thing is with that song? You can cut this out of the pod, but I have it's a real like cutesy bullshit relationship joke I have with Chelsea. Because Romeo loves, and this was before the song came out. Because Romeo loves to watch us brush our teeth. He comes in, like, runs from wherever he is to come watch us brush our teeth. And it was called it Tooth Time. So when that song came out, I was like, here we go.
You guys
I would just sing it to Chelsea. Like, I think it is tooth time. It just might be tooth time.
Meanwhile, Romeo's just like,
He's just vibing.
All right, next category.
I wonder if it's because he likes the mint smell. Like cats.
I think it might be something with the vibration. I don't know.
That's hot.
It's fucked up.
Pause.
Best lyric. You got some nominees.
That's a good.
That's a tough one for me. You know me.
Quynn hasn't read a lyric in like 5 years. Anything that stood out to you, at least, Quynn?
Inside Your Mind. I mean, we mentioned it earlier, but that one's definitely one of the most visceral. That's a feeling everyone has of like just wanting to know what's going on inside the head of somebody else. So I think that one stands out for me.
Well, Troy, we'll go to you because I know you're a lyric head. You got some lyrics that stood out.
Yeah. Okay. One of them, which I mean, it's not even a favorite song. It's your second favorite song, though, Josh. I like the start of the second verse. He says, and Danny says, "We're living in a simulation." It's like all the Elon Musk bros would probably be like, "Oh yeah, simulation theory, bro. Yeah, bro." But it's like, regardless of them, I think it is fun because it's like, that's something we talked about in philosophy classes, or at least like I did in a couple of mine. Like the, like brain in a vat, like this was like Robert Nozick, like, 60, 80 years ago. And so it's like the idea has been around a long time, but it just kind of made its way into the mainstream. So I do think that one's fun. I mean, I kind of already touched on the Man Who Married a Robot, like the lyrics of that I think are really good. I think that, there's probably not as many that honestly stand out on this album, which is probably why it feels not like Maddie's strongest.
Yeah, that's definitely not why it's not his Apex Mountain songwriting.
Yeah.
But there was 3 that like I always come back to. First one for sure is the Modernity Has Failed Us. Like I'd make that into a t-shirt like tomorrow. I feel like that's like the thesis of the whole record almost. Just especially like running that idea lyrically and thematically against like all of these vintage nostalgic sounds is like kind of a mindfuck, and it's cool and I love it. The second lyric that gets me is the it's weirdly in Petrichor, which like I didn't really listen to, and it's the vocals are so warbled that like it's kind of tough to tell, but like during these relistinables I'm like, yo, this is tough. These are bars right here. He says, write a letter to your future self who won't change. Don't let the internet ruin your time. They can take anything as long as it's true. What they can't take is you telling them lies. So I was like, bars, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that part's like distorted, isn't it?
Yeah, but then like when I went,
so it's like,
I was like, but I looked it up, like, what the fuck is this dude saying? And I was like, yo,
yeah, I mean, that
bars!
part sounds awesome. And so, yeah, it's like cool that the lyrics behind it are like punchy.
Which is crazy because in that podcast, they said that he started by just saying gibberish and was like, I guess I'll write some lyrics at the last second. Like, that's what you turned out? Jesus, man.
But that's like,
well, if any,
the second couplet of that is the one that hits me the hardest because like, I feel like, this is psychoanalysis, Josh, but like, I feel like that's like one of like my most toxic fucking traits. And like, I'm always just like, I gotta fix that. It's like, pretending like I'm okay with all the stuff that's happening that like I do to people, like knowing it's like fucking rough. And then, but it's like when it comes back to you, like, and I'm like, oh, that's okay. And then, but if it's like comes back to me or comes back to someone that like I care about, all of a sudden it's like not okay. So it's like, he says like, they can take anything as long as it's true. What they can't take is you telling them lies. It's just like, fuck, dog.
From the other podcast where they talk about making it and how they, just looped it, and he just kind of on a whim, it almost like threw those lyrics in. I feel like that probably is what makes them so punchy, is because they're, you're not coming into the studio with like all these expectations of, okay, I gotta write these lyrics. Like, I want them to be really good. I like, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to be too direct. Like, maybe I want to like skirt the line a little bit more. But if it's more spur of the moment, you might just get those more raw subconscious feelings that kind of just, they just kind of bubble up, and maybe there's meaning in them, maybe there's not. But I personally would guess that makes them a little bit more like to the point.
Yeah, I can see that.
And Poison Me Daddy. I'm just kidding. That's my favorite.
Oh, no, that is a great lyric. I actually agree. That should be one of the top lyrics.
Yeah, but I think those...
It's just two from one song, though, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah, but those are definitely my top two, like, best lyrics.
I actually did think of another part that I do love. And it's tough because I think a lot of the times the lyrics that you love in their songs are so married to the actual performance of the song. So like, it might not be that great of a lyric, but then the performance aspect of it makes it so unique that you like love it, or the music aspect makes it so unique sounding that you love it. Like, cause like you said on that petrichor part, like I never have known what those lyrics say, but I've always like, fucking loved how they sound. Like, they're incredible sounding. That I guess the lyric stands out in my head, but only because I really loved the music of it, like that moment. And it's the second verse of Give Yourself a Try. And it's like, he goes like, I found a gray hair in one of my zoots. And it like keeps, and then it's like context in a modern debate. I took it out. I just took it out. We just kind of just say what we feel. We don't really, look at the facts all the time. We kind of might be like more emotively driven. And so,
especially on the internet.
Oh my God.
Especially on the internet. Yeah.
And I was going to say too, like, cause this whole thing is kind of like a treatise on like, fucking online communication and stuff.
Yeah,
and
interactions.
And I always see like, and I'm not gonna out it, but you'll know who I'm talking about, Quynn. There are these people from back home that just like always post like very leftist shit, which is cool. Like, I'm a leftist fuck too myself, but like
sure. So,
but like it always brings up these like big like dramatic arguments on there. And basically, like, you're just like throwing punches at like fucking ocean waves, like
air.
Things like you don't know and people you don't understand, like what they've been through. And so, when you don't have that context about who you're arguing against or who you're like fighting, it like dehumanizes them to like a super fucked up way where like you feel like you can just say whatever you want. And I feel like that's kind of what that line is saying too. And
totally.
I know I've been like sucked into that shit, and I'm trying not to do that as much, but yeah, man, context and not even just context about situationally, but just like who that person is, like holistically, and like what has like formed their opinions and stuff, because all that shit matters.
Funny too about just the name of the album, because like when I first heard the name of the album, I think I went in with my own, like preconceived notions of what it was going to be about, and because you hear like online relationships, and so I hear relationship, and I think between
Tinder.
two people,
Yeah.
or like just between like I think just more at the romantic level,
Yeah, same.
and like it's very obvious once you listen to the album that that's not one of the only relationships that they're talking about. They're just talking about our relationships with each other, like humanity, like person to person.
Totally.
And so that's something, it wasn't really evident to me when I first went into it, but then after listening enough times. And then the other thing you brought up about the, like yelling at ocean waves or punching ocean waves, when you
Those bars, right? You like that.
when you argue with people without context, or you don't really know where they're coming from. This is a total aside, but I feel like the internet shouldn't be allowed to be anonymous. I feel like we need some.
And that's why I keep my
feel like-
full name on everything, because if
I feel
I'm
like there should
dropping
be that.
dumbass comments on ESPN, Instagram,
Dude,
you know it's me, motherfucker. Say
Yeah,
LeBron sucks. Try it.
exactly. I don't like that the internet is anonymous. Like I could get why people want it, but I think that like anonymity is probably just a device to hide wrongdoing. Like if it's kind of the idea of like
Say with your chest.
yeah, it's like if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to worry about.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, obviously that's not always the case, but on the internet,
Yeah.
I think it would be the case, because it's like
You don't have to be on the internet.
Yeah, you don't have to be on there. It's like a playground, and right now it's a playground where people can just like be as cruel or as nice as they want to, and so it's a pretty fucked up playground.
I think this next question is an easy one.
Yeah.
Should this have been an EP?
Nope.
No way.
Good to go.
Good to go. I think even if you cut out like the 3-4 worst songs, it's still a full length. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, what is really the purpose of an EP? Like, I get it. To me, it's almost like just like a marketing technique.
yeah,
'Cause,
no,
I
no.
mean-
I think in the purpose of this question is like, should this have been a shorter offering of its best bits?
Is there too much filler?
Is it too much
Oh,
filler?
so you're,
For example,
But by, like,
Scorpion.
shorter,
Should
you mean, like,
Scorpion
5
have been an
songs?
EP? Like, should Scorpion
Right.
have been an EP? Yes.
like by EP, do you like how many songs do you mean? Like
Let's say
5
7
or 6
max.
tops.
Yeah.
7
6.
max?
I think 6
say-
tops.
Sure, 6 max.
I mean, yeah, probably not.
No way. No way. This is a full length
Yeah.
all the way. Like I said, you could take off the
Like 1
5
thou. 1 thou.
Yeah, you could take off like 5 songs off this bitch and it's still a amazing full length album. So,
Yeah.
yeah, no way. No way.
No way. No way.
Last question is I think what I think you guys thought Apex Mountain was to start, but who won the album? AKA
Yeah.
who
Us.
came
Oh man, look at you. Look at me. Look at us. Wow.
Look at that.
But yeah, out of everybody involved, like who came out of this album as like the winner, you would say?
Yeah, still George for me for sure. Especially because production and like noise in general, like the noises used on an album, is not something I pay a lot of attention to. This album like forced me to pay attention to it in a great way. Because I'm much more usually of the mindset of if it's a great song, it can be played with one person with one acoustic guitar with a shitty mic, and I'll still love the song, which is usually the case. But the production of this album just pushed it so far over the top that definitely George is the winner for me.
I mean, this you saying that, Quinn, just made me think of like, I guess I agree, but then also I want to say that being nitpicky and also having listened to Notes on a Conditional Form pretty extensively and critically, I would say that this album laid the foundations both in a good way and a bad way moving forward, because it's like they have like sonically they have their sound at its potential peak in this album. Like they have really like forged an identity in terms of like the type of music they make, and like the George talked about like the sound bank and like just the tone and everything. They've to me really got that kind of honed in on this album. But then moving on to the next album, though it's still really good in certain cases, I feel like it became a crutch. And so I think to a degree, I think like George's production, like being so good on this album also kind of hurts them in terms of the next album, because they like rely on it too much.
It's like, and I hate to make this like a basketball thing, but fuck it, it's my podcast. It's almost like when like the first time the Heat won the championship with LeBron, like they got so just used to just throwing it to him, high pick and roll. Let's just see what he does instead of like actually creating any movement off it. So like it was almost like bad confirmation bias is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. Like it's like, oh, that works. Okay, I'm going to keep doing that. And I think that's like, obviously it's not bad in music. Like you want familiarity between your artist's records, but at the same time, I feel like it could definitely make them sound more, it could feel more stale, and it could kind of just make their like stuff going forward kind of underwhelming if it doesn't feel like it's actually evolving beyond that point.
And I think that's where, because like just for the record, who won the album for me is also George Daniel, but I think if there isn't enough push and pull from Maddie and George's kind of like worlds and like influence on the record, you get a Notes from the Unconditional Form, where it is just so, it's like more one-sided, whereas you saw on this album, this third album, like the best kind of like balancing act of their two strengths. Because again, as much as I want a fifth guy or gal in the room, kind of helping, kind of like shaping the sound and kind of like steering the ship, them unencumbered from that filter, I think they rose up to the challenge there. So yeah, so I think I do, but I think who won the album? George Daniel won the album for sure. But I do see that confirmation bias. I hope for the fifth album, you get Maddie kind of pulling his weight a little bit more, because really it's the songwriting and the production that makes the 1975. It's not just the sounds, it's not just the tones and like the variety of genres. It's like what's actually the content on top of the sound beds.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, well, I think that was a great deep dive into this record. A brief inquiry. It's a great album. If you were to rate it, Quinn, in 2020 re-listenable, out of 5 stars, what would you give it?
How are we doing? Half stars?
Half stars. Quarter stars if you want to give quarter stars.
No quarters.
Okay.
I'm saying no quarters. For me, it's a 4.5. It's a 4.5.
4.5 WHATTACHUNEs?
Sure. Does the WHATTACHUNEs marker somehow mean more?
It's just my
your fucking thumb.
It's like a small thumb.
All right, never mind. I like it more now. Yeah, it's a 4.5 out of 5 for me. Again, like even the ones that we said were a little bit more filler, the ones that don't fit on the album, I still love them as songs. Like even Surrounded by Heads and Bodies, Be My Mistake, still love those songs as songs to listen to, which I can't say about all the songs on any of their other albums. So this one really, I might be pulling a little head too, Josh, but it might always be my favorite album from them.
Always your favorite album sometimes.
Haha. Crafty bastard.
Troy, what about you? How many WHATTACHUNEs do you give this?
Okay, so I think the star system, like the 5-star system, is good. But
are you gonna complain about the star system?
No. I hate this in general. Like, I don't like stars because it's like less precise.
Not a star. It's a WHATTACHUNE. It's a WHATTACHUNE.
Fine. I hate the 5 WHATTACHUNEs is the max.
Rank it how you want to rank it.
Because it forces you to go higher or lower than you might want to.
That's why I said quarter what a tunes, but Quinn said no
I'll
what
do
a
a quarter
tune.
what a tune.
Do a quarter what a tune.
Quarter what a tune. And I wasn't saying it in a true complaining sense. Like, I think it's good to have to pick. If I had to do 5 stars, if I had to do out of 5, I'd give it a 4.5. If I can do quarter, I'd give it a 4.25.
4.25. I think I'm right there with
All
you.
that fuss for such a similar answer.
That was an aside. That wasn't actually about actually ranking it.
That was
All right,
hilarious.
all right.
I'm right there with you. 4.25. What a tunes. Because I think it's a great album. I think it's very re-listenable, but I don't know if it like will cross at 4.5, 4.75 into like that classic record status that I would, hold for some other ones. I would actually put maybe like that the first record as a 4.5. But
So this is not your favorite
even-
1975 album, to clarify.
no way.
It's not. Second favorite.
This is my second favorite.
Interesting.
It's close.
Interesting,
It's super
interesting,
close. But
interesting,
but
interesting,
again, I will admit the first one holds so much nostalgic value
Nostalgia.
to it.
Yeah, it
Like
does.
like there's so many memories attached to that. Like Troy and I fucking driving up to El Dorado Hills to like watch Ellie's house and just dumb shit with that album. So
Yeah.
so it's like that's unfair. It's not
It's
objective.
unfair. It edges
Yeah, 'cause
it
that- I
forward
mean-
just a little bit.
It's also like what I soundtracked my first internship to. Fucking just listening to Pressure, just knocking out Excel sheets. It's not gonna get
And
any
they
better
were-
than that.
And they were such a different band
Oh
at
yeah.
that point. Like I feel like it's just they've evolved so much since then that it's not like a bad evolution. It's just like it's just different.
Definitely a different band. But yeah, 4.25 What a Tunes. Still a great album though, I would say.
Very good. One of the best of in.
You have
in
to do it
recent
that way.
years.
That's funny. You
Yeah,
have
it
to
has
do
to
it
be, has to
facing
be
out.
this way. Do it, yeah, on the inside. Yeah, there you go.
That's gonna be the screenshot for this pod. Just all the three of us. The fucking.
How do you screenshot?
I mean, you can just pull. How do you screenshot?
You screenshot, Quinn. I don't know how to do it.
No, just pull it from the still. Or whatever.
Oh, you're right. I'm stupid. I'm a fucking professional video editor. Holy fuck. Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us on this deep dive of Brief Inquiry. Stay tuned for the next record. We have some ideas of what it's going to be. Thank you guys for listening. Check in for the next one. We really enjoy this. Thanks to Troy. Thanks to Quinn. Keep it what a tune.